Hello viewer, welcome to a discussion on sociology of development. In this discussion, we'll be covering first the scope of sociology of development. In the scope, we'll be talking about the themes and perspective. Then we'll be covering the forces of development. In this segment, we'll be covering the technology, the ideology, the state and civil society intervention. The next part will be covering the conditions of development, that is conditioned by historicity and the sociocultural factor. At the end, we'll be talking about implications of development, especially for the various segments of the society. In the remaining part, we'll be talking about the development that has been initiated with varieties of the process in the society. As you understand, man is a producing animal. As a producing animal, man is the tool-making animal. As a tool-making animal, it takes the control over the environment, that to have control over the subsistence, also control over the environment and the nature. In the whole process, it initiates a new process of social progression and development in the society. Now, while we were talking about the change and development and also the transformation in the society, we have to accept this fact that man is the producing animal. He enters into a production relationship with other segment of the society, that is other living being. And in the whole production process, there is a changing relationship between man, society, state and the market. And the whole kind of development is not autonomous, is not independent of the other forces, other kind of intervention. When we talk about man as a producing animal, man by skill making and innovating capabilities, it has engineered the process of industrial revolution in this earth in the 18th century. It has engineered the whole process of igniting human mind to go towards the age of Renaissance. It has ushered an era of enlightenment in the society. By doing so, we find the whole process of transition of the society. The transition has taken place from savagery to barbarism, barbarism to civilization, and that progression has been also from primitive to modern, from agrarian to industrial, from ancient to feudal, from feudal to capital, and also from local to the global. Now, the whole process of transition, as we are talking about, from savagery to barbarism to civilization, from pre-agriculture to agricultural, from local to global, it has been comprehended by the sociologists from their own kind of perspective. So when you look into the comprehension of the sociologists, we have to take into this fact how the early sociologists, the classical sociologists, has looked into the whole process of progression of the society. They have taken into consideration that this progression is a step forward. And when we're talking about this step forward, we have to take cognizance of the contribution given by our founding fathers of sociology, Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte, in his understanding, he has taken cognizance of two important factors in the society, what he calls social statics, that is the institutional arrangement of the society. Then he talks about the social dynamics, that is the development and changes those are taking place in the society. So what he was more interested, the development and changing perspective of the society. How he thought of with the whole process of development and transition of the society from pre-industrial to the industrial, from primitive to the modern, he found that there is a change in human mind, change in the societal framework, that were changing from theological to metaphysical, metaphysical to the scientific stage. What he thought in this process, there is a kind of a dying type of society. The dying type of societies are the theological society. The theological society was based on religious or spiritual interpretation of the event. And then the dying type was replaced by a new type, what he was talking about, an industrial type of society, a positivistic society in terms of calculability, in terms of empiricism, in terms of rationality. So what he found, a kind of transition of human mind from theological, that is what he was talking about in terms of religion, then he talked about metaphysical in terms of nature, then it is progressing to the scientific stage. Similarly, we thought of, rather we should take cognizance of the writings of Morgan. Morgan pointed out that human society is gradually progressing. That progression took place from the stages of savagery. Savagery to barbarism, barbarism to civilization. The whole process he found that it was engineered by human capacity to ensure its subsistence and that is capacity to ensure subsistence. Human being got a kind of a supremacy on this earth to control the nature, to control the environment, to move itself to the whole process of progression. Karl Marx took the clue from Bergen, and Karl Marx widely talked about the whole kind of economic determinism that was conditioning the social development, that was conditioning the economic development in the society. What he talked about that in the production relationship, there are two categories in the society. One category is that owners of the means of production, another category was the non-owners of the means of production. So within these two categories, there are the contradiction. Out of this contradiction, society changed from one stage to that of another in its own term, that is the modes of production. The modes of production was conditioned by the economic forces of the society, that is the land, labor, capital and organization. When there is a change in the economic organization of the society, there are parallel and consistent change on the superstructure, that is the polity, the religion and other segment of the society. And he categorized the transition of the society from that of ancient society to that of a feudal society, feudal to that of a capitalistic society. He has also talked about the transition of the society from Asiatic society, that is a distinctive mode for the Asiatic society, that is the countries living in the Asian subcontinent. The main motive, the motto and the process of the changes to him was the class struggle and that struggle for change and development in the society. We have to take that other evolutionary theories, those who have played a very good role in developing a kind of perspective in social transition and social transformation. Herbert Spencer widely talked about the transition from what he talked a kind of a simple society to doubly compound society to triply compound society. Then he ultimately talks about a development growth in the form of a laissez-faire economy. He took the clue from Darwin. What he talked about society like social organism. That social organism gradually changed from a family structure to a clan structure. From this clan, it became a tribe. The tribe also took the form of a state. That state also took from a military form, ultimately produced an industrial form of society. This industrial form of society, because an industrial society is widely dependent on the demand and supply factor of production, and it promoted itself based on the foundation of a laissez-faire economy, that is a free trade economy. Tonis, another sociologist, early sociologist, he also talked about the development of the society from a Gemini shaft to Gesellschaft. What is the Gemini shaft? He was talking about a natural condition. A natural condition in which the family, marriage and kinship, those institutions are interacting and giving a kind of a cohesion of the society, gradually shifted to another direction, that is Gemini shaft. That is what he talked about from Gemini shaft to Gesellschaft. That is a production-based society. Relationship is based on production, efficiency and self-interest, and there is a growth of individualism from collectivism of Gemini shaft to individualism of this Gesellschaft. So what we find, this kind of transition is taking place. But perhaps in the sociological literature, we found the more profound contribution came from the writing of Durkheim and Max Weber. Durkheim was talking about the society in terms of solidarity, a manifestation of moral conscience and morality. He thought about, with the gradual process of industrialization, there is a kind of transition of the society in terms of specialization of work and division of these activities. But the specialization of the work and division of the society contributed to transition from that of a mechanical to organic society. In a mechanical society, everybody could be replaced by another. But in an organic society, nobody can be replaced by nobody, because it is specialized work done by the specialized kind of a labor force. What he told, with the whole process of acquiring technological sophistication, acquiring kind of an industrial character of the society, society transited from that of a mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. It got another stage of sophistication in the writing of Max Weber. Max Weber widely talked about the development is guided by rationalization of human thoughts and action. What he talked about, the previous societies or the traditional societies. The traditional societies gradually became a rational society. How he talked about the traditional to rational society? He talked about that the traditional values, norms and customs, those were giving a kind of a cohesiveness and social belonging, and those cohesiveness, social belonging, when it got the space of rationality of thoughts and action, it produced a different kind of capital in the society. What is the term? The rational capital. A rational capital is based on the calculability, the empiricism and rationalization of human thoughts and action. Human thoughts and action, those were traditionally founded, if they can be translated into rationality, that can produce a kind of a rational capital. His famous book, The Protestant Ethics and the Spirit of Capitalism, widely depicts that kind of a transition in the society. When we talk about this kind of a transition, we are also to take care of another three writers, quite important, how Talcott Parsons widely talked about how society is transiting from what he used the term an evolutionary universe. He talked about no society is static. The society is becoming evolutionary. It is gradually evolving. How it is evolving from one stage to that of another. He talked it is transiting from simple, that is a food gathering, hunting, a community living, animism-based, religious and magic-centric society. It got transformed to an intermediate society, what he used the term archaic society. Archaic society, there was occupational specialization, there was state and state control. Gradually, he found that there is an emergence of a different kind of a state, different kind of a society, what he told, that is a modern society. That modern society is not an autonomous society. It laid its foundation on varieties of development in human history. The first development he counted, that was the Industrial Revolution of 1760s. Then it was widely facilitated by the American Revolution of 1765 to 1783. Then there was the French Revolution. The French Revolution 1779 and 80s. It brought a revolution in human thoughts and action that gave the first slogan of liberty, equality and justice. Then out of this revolution, then there become a new kind of institution came to the modern society, the money that replaced the barter system, the banking that replaced the traditional kind of bankers. It came also the bureaucracy, formal organization that gave a different kind of a state and civil society. Another kind of developmental interpretation is given by Carl Polanyi in his famous book, The Great Transformation. What it talks about, it talks about a transition from that of a self-regulated society to a market-regulated society. What it talked about, in the whole process of development, there is a kind of dissociation of the family from that of a market. Earlier it was the family, that was a self-sufficient family, that was the itself the producing, distributing and the consumption unit. When the production became a larger scale, the family dissociated itself from the that of the production process. The production took place. Production was totally controlled by the market. If the market started controlling the society, when he came, he found that is the first great transformation in the society. The great transformation also gradually it evolved from that of a local level to that of a national level, from that national level to that of an international level, and it talked widely propagated a theory of free market. That is what he was talking about, a laissez-faire, a kind of a free trade kind of a culture started coming in. And out of that, gradually there was the expansion of capitalism across the globe. And since there was the expansion of capitalism, there is a need of new market. Out to suffice the need of new market of this capitalism, there was the expansion of capitalism. So what we found, that expansion of the market, the capitalism and also the colonialism was quietly linked. And it continued till the early part of 1920s. In 1920s, there came the Great Depression. The Great Depression brought in kind of a huge unemployment, economic instability in the world, and America widely tried to contribute to bring a new kind of a society by bringing up a New Deal. What was the New Deal? New Deal provides the certain arrangement where it is not the market that will take care of everything. The state will come in the center of the activities to provide the public good, the social welfare activities in terms of the education, employment of the people. So that was the second great transformation in the human society. That is the early phase of the state, the capitalist state, was replaced by a new kind of a state, that is a social welfare state, what we call a welfareism of a state, that came into being starting from early 1930s, and it continued till 1960s, 17 and 80s. Then we find that is a new kind of phenomenon has come in the developmental journey of human history. What we find in between, there are two kinds of a state formation. On the one hand, there was the capitalistic state that was widely guided by America and its Western European allies. Then you find another socialistic state, that was Russia and its other kind of allies like Russia, China, Poland, other kind of countries, so socialistic bloc. So what we find is this bloc got collapsed in later part of 1980s, and there was emergence of a new kind of ideology and a new kind of a trade. What Fukuyama and others recognize it is a economic neoliberalism, that is the end of history, that is evolving a kind of new kind of phenomenon on this earth. So within the whole process, we find a transition of the society, transition of the economy, transition of the polity, transition of a business culture towards a new direction. What we find, we have to have a small kind of analysis of this whole process of development. It has been looked into both in the socialistic world and in the capitalistic world. They have taken into cognizance that society, the societal development, the economic development is to be calculated, rather was calculated in terms of growth, and growth was calculated in terms of the gross domestic product. So what was that? That is, development is synonymous to the growth, growth is synonymous to the gross domestic product. And that was widely recognized with the expansion of market capitalism and also colonialism. So what we find within the whole process, because this process was not independent, this process was widely accompanied by other varieties of the cultural processes, the processes of modernization, the processes of westernization, also industrialization. So what we find, higher quantum of industrialization, higher quantum is the economic growth, higher is the GDP, and higher is the GDP, higher is the correlationship, extent of modernization of this country. So what we found, a kind of a economic determinism that was guiding the society. That is what it was talking about: productivity, expansion of the market of the economy, and the industrial growth and profit. It became widely cyclical, widely interlinked. So what we find, they recognize modernization and industrialization to be the panacea of all social kind of ills. That is the social phenomenon it was talking about. If you were to take care of unemployment, inequality, and also backwardness of a country, you have to go for industrialization, you have to go for modernization, you have to go for fast expansion of your economic growth and the basis of your GDP. The whole process of progression of human society from pre-industrial to industrial, as we are discussing, also from that of a pre-agrarian to agrarian, is widely guided by the whole process of industrialization, whole process of production of goods and services. That is widely taken cognizance of. The important factor is that what we have talked about earlier in terms of progression from the pre-agrarian, pre-agricultural to that of an agricultural society. Gradually, this process of expansion also quietly moved, and it gave birth to an industrial society, from agricultural to an industrial society. And now we find from the 1960s onward, and the late 1950s onward, a kind of expansion of a new kind of a society, what we call a post-industrial knowledge and information-based society. In the development journey of human being, there's a wide kind of change that has taken place. How it has taken place? In earlier agricultural society and in industrial society, what we talked about, 4 factors of production, that is land, labor, capital, and organization. Now we find a new factor has come in starting from late 50s and thereafter, that is the intellectual capability, the entrepreneurial capability, the capability of education and skill as a factor of production. So this has widely changed the whole developmental journey of human destiny on this earth. In the earlier case, in the pre-agricultural agricultural society, the site of production and site of resources are the land. In the industrial society, the site of production was the factory. But what we are talking about, a post-industrial society, a knowledge society and an information-based society, the site of production is a human mind. So when we talk about a knowledge-based and information society, we are talking about a new kind of a developmental sites, the sites of development of a human mind. That is more, in other cases, there is a limitation of the land, limitation of the factory, but there is no limitation of human mind in its whole progression. So what has happened, when we talk about a knowledge society, we talk about a new kind of a developmental framework, that is development of knowledge and information. Development of knowledge and information for mass dissemination and production of knowledge for acquiring more wealth and employment in the society. So we find a new kind of workforce has started coming in this art. Though they are not the agricultural laborer, they are not the agricultural worker, they are not the industrial worker, they are the knowledge worker. So we find, along with the proliferation of the knowledge and information society, a new kind of a developmental site has taken place with the arrival of the knowledge worker in this society. So what we find, the shift in the site of production from the dirty leg, muddy hand, or from a machine to that of a human mind. So what we find, a kind of a linear correlationship from that of more the knowledge, more engagement in the service sector, and more is the GDP. So here it is not considered in the whole developmental journey, that is industrialization and growth is the only indicators of development. Rather, it is talked about education and service sector, that the tertiary sector has been the driving force of GDP of any country. Starting from late 1970s, a careful scrutiny of the statistics of all the development countries shows that there is a phenomenal shifting of the labor force from agriculture and industry to that of the service sector of the economy, because there has been phenomenal increase in the educated manpower. So gradually they have shifted from agriculture and industry to the other sector of the economy, that is the tertiary sector of the economy. So what we find in the developmental journey of human being, a new process of development, the development is augmented by a new kind of economy, that economy is knowledge-based economy. When we are talking about the knowledge-based economy, it's having another two important co-constituents. One is that globalization, that is neoliberal economic globalization. Second part is called ICT, information and communication technologies. Those information and communication technologies and globalization has given a new drive to the economic growth and economic transformation of the society. It has also brought human being to a new destiny in terms of its survival and progression on this earth. Now, what we find, that is, if we look into a whole process of progression in the human society, starting from primitive to that of agricultural society, from agricultural to industrial society, from industrial to post-industrial and knowledge-based society, this progression and development has brought in varieties of positive development in the society. What are those positive development? It has brought a sense of good quality of life on this earth, good quality of the life of human being. This quality of the life is in terms reflected in terms of the health, housing and cleanliness. What is the health? The longevity of the life of human being on this earth has increased. The general illness which are already prevalent on this earth, those who are recurring, those have been eliminated from this earth. We find a kind of a housing, this is healthy housing practices with cleanliness, sanitization. It has been made available to the largest segment, the upwardly mobile segment of the society. So what we find, along with this development, there has been a kind of a new kind of consumption and new kind of comforts on this earth. This new kind of consumption, it is not only reflected in terms of the housing, it is reflected in terms of conspicuous consumption, in terms of household assets, both consumable and also visibly consumable. What is that consumable items? We talk about in terms of housing, in terms of parks, the car, and in terms of the TV, refrigerator, computer assets, and also bank balances. We find those are kind of an assets it's created, and also along with that there have been new patterns of consumption, that is in terms of consumption of the natural resources, and it has brought in new sense of getting comforts in the society. It has also created new kind of a leisure class on this earth. What we find, it has also brought in a new sense of natural and social security. What is the natural security? Natural security is that man, through the technology, it has been able to control major disaster on this earth in terms of it has been able to control the course of the river. It has been able to control varieties of the other natural phenomena, bringing the roads, the dams, other kind of a thing. So it has been created a new kind of a natural security and new kind of a social security on this earth. It has also simultaneously created enormous sense, vast space of communication and interconnectivity across the globe. No individual now isolated, they are linked to the wider world, either physically using modern kind of a transport or through information and communication technology. So what we find, the quantum of communication and interactivity has increased. We also find a new kind of innovation and creativity. Those are reflected in the art, culture, in the positive thought of human being. And all this development has widened the process of expansion, what we call rationality and secularism. What is rationality? Rationality talks in terms of visibility of the fact, in terms of empiricism, not in terms of conservatism, not in terms of belief in certain traditional faith, and that may yield certain kind of results. Rather, in terms of calculability, in terms of positivism, it has brought new kind of thoughts and action on this earth. It has also brought a wide sense of secularism, that is a secularism that one has got the capability, based on education and a wider exposure, to think in terms of public and private, dissociating one personal life, one personal nativity, personal faith and belief from that of a public life. So what we find, rather at times giving an equal respect of others' beliefs and thoughts. So what we find, there has been emergence of rationality and secularism on this earth. It has also provided the spade of wide acceptance of the sense of equality, fraternity and justice for each and every segment of the population. What we find, all this process widely contributed for the assertion of democracy and citizenship rights for the people in this society. So what we find, a kind of a development that is engineered in the economic realm, it has also been reflected in the political realm, in the cultural realm, in the educational realm, in the realm of thoughts and action of human beings. Now, development, what we find that development has also brought a varieties of imbalances in the society, and those imbalances are widely reflected in terms of global north and global south. What we find, that development, the economic development, the growth-oriented development is widely facilitated the countries of the global north to flourish and to be economically developed. And to have control over the technology and other paraphernalia on this earth. Simultaneously, we find if the global north has remained economically deprived with low amount of economic growth and a kind of a regional imbalances. It is not only the division between the global north and the global south. There is also imbalances within the global north, that is a regional imbalances, the ethnic imbalances in terms of caste, in terms of class, in terms of race. So we find the economic development which we are talking about, that development has not been balanced, rather there has been enormous imbalances, regional imbalances, spatial imbalances, technological imbalances, educational imbalances on this earth. This is widely accompanied by income inequality. The World Development Report and the World Bank Report widely talks that top 10% of the world population controls more than 70% of the resources. It means the remaining 90% of the people having control only over the 30% of the resources. This inequality widely reflected by World Social Forum and varieties of the others. So what we find, economic development has not been equal, rather it has created a community of social inequality, community of deprived, community of unemployed, and community of homeless, and varieties of others we will be talking subsequently. When you talk about development, development has also produced an enormous variety of pollution and environment degradation. We know that is no development is possible without energy. No energy is possible without burning the fossil fuel. So when you burn the fossil fuel, you just produce more CO2 carbon on this earth, and in the way you contribute more to the environmental degradation and also ultimately to the climate change. Now the world statistics shows that whatsoever the natural resources, that is, this human population is over-consumed more than 46% of the world natural resources, and this consumption has been widely done by the people of the global north and the affluent section of the global south. So more the economic development, more has been contribution to the pollution, more has been contribution to the environmental destruction. Ultimately, this contribution has been accompanied by what we call, rather contributed to this climate change. Poverty is another phenomenon. We found the huge amount of world population till now live below the poverty line. And if we consider India, we find that more than 28% of the people live below the poverty line. Unemployment is another phenomenon. Development has not taken care of the unemployment. But ultimately, it has created the increasing phenomenon of family and social disorder. So what we find, that is, whatsoever process of economic development we are talking about, that economic development, though it has created a space of social mobility, that social mobility and economic development, it has been for a segment of the population, those who have experienced a vertical social mobility, while those who are the resourceless, those who are the poverty-ridden, unemployed, belong to the lower strata of the society. For them, it has been mostly a kind of a horizontal mobility from the rural to the urban areas in search of employment, in search of livelihood security as a migrant laborer and other varieties of the social categories. What we find, that is, as a sociologist of social development, one should look into the issues, that what are the issues, how it can be tackled. But one should look into what are the historicities of all cultural interlinkages with economic development and economic deprivation. It is quite important that no economic development is autonomous of the cultural and historical processes. So historical, social and cultural processes are interlinked with the whole process of social, economic and political development. Had there not been colonialism, maybe the whole history and trajectory of Indian economic development would have been different. So in that way, the historicity is quite important to look into how it has contributed to economic stagnation and sustained economic backwardness. Simultaneously, what are the new political processes, new political forces, what are the technological forces that is also augmenting a new process of economic development that's quite worth examining. Now, it is also important that the capacity deprivation and socio-cultural disadvantages, these are also historically inherited. At times, those are conditionally, socially conditioned. This is widely looked into. Within this whole process, there has also been the process of reproduction of marginality in the society. There has also been the process of breaking the marginality in the society, and that whole process of breaking the marginality, the barriers to marginality, is widely activated by the state-sponsored initiative, civil society activism, with the whole penetration of education and a new process of consensitization, and also people's participation in the developmental process. When this process of development is not augmented, is not shared by largest segment of the population, there has also been people's protest and people's movement. Perhaps what is important at this stage, a sociologist of sociology of development must look very critically at what are those conditions that promotes development, what are the factors that contribute rather that hinders the process of development. Now let us sum up whatever we have discussed in this lecture. In this lecture, we have discussed first how we'll comprehend the development, how development has been comprehended by the classical sociologist, the founding father of the sociologist, how this development has been engineered by the whole process of technological development, whole process of industrial revolution, and also the state-sponsored developmentalism. Then we have come to this conclusion that there are some positive and negative aspects of development, and there is a sociological responsibility that sociology should probe into the social factors that contributes to smoothen the process of development, and so at times that hinders the process of development. Thank you very much for being with this lecture. Thank you.